Hi, I'm Jon Doe from CLSM and 4. I've sold thousands of vinyl records and also streamed millions of streams. And today I just want to show you one trick, but in two parts, a basic and more advanced, which you might be interested in. So, Tengu has written this stab, and it's mixed in a way where the stab gets out of the way of the kick and the snare just when they play. And in the track, you don't really notice it. Let's hear it in the track. All sounds pretty normal, but if we look at Shaper Box, we are producing a volume envelope, which means that when the kick plays, it ducks out of the way, which means the kick, in comparison, is clearer than the stab because the volume difference is greater, which means you hear the kick, and then on the second beat, you hear the snare because it ducks again. On the third and a half beat, it ducks for the kick, and the fourth beat, it ducks for the snare. And then in the mix, it's only mixed 50% in. So it actually goes to half volume on this Shaper Box. But the thing I really want to show you today, if you're all nodding along saying, I know this, then check out this one. This is made for this track because there's a snare on the second and fourth beat. So this only represents 2 beats. Okay, and look what it's doing. On the second beat, so this is the first beat, I'll wave my mouse about, and here's the second beat. This ducks 100% just for a fraction of a second, and it does it just before the snare. So the riff is going along, it ducks out of the way before the snare, so it doesn't smash into it and cause a wall of sound. It gets out of the way, the snare plays, it comes back up again, and then it rises right up. And then just before the next beat, there is the tiniest dip, which you can see just at the end, and then just at the beginning comes back up again. But you kind of don't hear that. But here's the crucial thing. If you look at this part of this plugin, this is only active in the top third of the sound. So it is not cutting out the meat of the sound. It is just denting the top end of the sound so that when the snare goes, this ducks out of the way, and that means that it mixes very, very nicely with the snare. Hopefully both will play now. Because if you want something to be louder than another thing, you want to turn it up. And that means there's a difference between the snare volume and the stab volume. But what I'm saying is if the snare is there and this ducks out of the way, it's got a huge difference, so you really hear this. And what this is doing particularly is on the second and fourth beat, the top end of this sound is being removed. But when it's in the mix, you don't really hear it so much. But as you can see, this is almost turning off the top end briefly while the snare's in. Anyway, hope that helped you, and take care. Goodbye. Yes, goodbye.